Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Life and Fitness podcast. I'm Cheryl Patton.
And I'm Megan Prince.
We started this podcast as a way to connect with more people who are struggling to fit it all in. The workouts, the food, kids, work, and relationships.
We know that we're not perfect, but we hope that through our struggles and our mistakes and our failures and our successes that we can help more people through their challenges and be successful. So if you want some tips and tricks to help you along your journey to be the best version of yourself, then this is it.
All right, welcome back to another episode. And today we are chatting about things I knew before I started my fitness journey. So we're going to sort of touch on nutrition, training philosophies, doing that amazing comparison game that we are all famous for doing, which is going to tie into a little bit when, you know, we all have different genetics and that I am me and you are you. And, you know, we cannot be somebody else, no matter how hard you may want to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I think, and sorry, we reworded that wrong, but things I wish I knew before my fitness journey, because if I could go back, it's the same with motherhood though. If we could go back with motherhood and we would have known all these things, we would have done so many things differently. 100%. So when we're talking about this stuff, it's like 25 years of fitness industry that we're talking about, that we're like trying to say, and it's hard because when your mother's trying to tell you stuff now, you're like, oh, you were right. But when if younger people are listening to our podcast, these are things like that we wish that we could, some wisdom that we wish we could kind of trickle down into you to tell you, like, and I think there's a lot of that coming out now, right? Where a lot of people are just kind of being themselves and really being vulnerable with things on, because we didn't have this social media platform like
we did not. No, and I think people are now a lot more comfortable being their true, authentic, all those buzzwords, self, and being okay if somebody does not like them.
Yeah, to a certain extent, right? Because I think there's still those Instagram pages that are
100%.
glorified lives, and then there's those other ones that really just tell you how it is, and those are the ones that I like to follow, and those are the ones that I think are like so real, because you're like, oh yeah, like I totally feel like that, and I totally like wish that I knew that before, or I'm going through that now and you can relate to you, right? So it's like more relatable sort of thing.
Which can be hard in the fitness industry too, I think, to be relatable, because, you know, especially if you are like a strong female who's, I don't know. I don't think I'm wording this right. I think it can be sometimes hard for people to be authentic, because they see you as being able to do all these things, right? You can do all these athletic type things, right? You can work out, you've got good flexibility, you got good mobility, so everything just must be all rainbows and unicorns. When that's not always necessarily the case. We just don't show that side on our socials.
Yeah. Which those are like the hard things, right? Like I posted a while ago about like waking up in the morning and my kids like literally are crying. I don't want you to go to the gym. I want you to be there tomorrow, you know? So I have to work through that stuff every day, that I'm not this horrible mom. And then you get to the gym and you're like trying to enjoy this workout where you feel this guilt, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be at home and my kids are crying and they want me to be there with them. And you're like, there's a lot of things during the day that are stressful or whatever, but I just sort of try to like push those out of my head, right? So that I can still stay focused a little bit. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things I can say is like, don't always trust everybody in the fitness industry knows what's best for you. Because I think when I first started out, there was just so many people that helped me on my journey in certain ways, but it wasn't necessarily like good for my health. I won shows.
Right. Got it.
But it wasn't like good for my health per se. So I think that, like we know now, like not every fitness coach has your best interest at heart. They just want you to get good results. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to help you long term with everything else. So I think, yeah, just investing in like a really good coach that's qualified and that has the values and beliefs that you want. Like I know if I were to interview coaches now, I'd be like, how much cardio do you give your clients? How many days a week are they training? Because that would be super important to me, because if there's no leeway of like, I change this for a client, like we do cardio every day, you know, then I'm like, that's not for me, because that's not something I can fit into my life. That I just 100% know that's not something that I would be able to manage right now, because my stress levels are so high in other aspects of my life that I used to be able to wake up and do cardio and then work out later on. But I'm like, I just know what my threshold is right at this point in 100%. This chapter, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So like, finding a good coach and making sure that it's somebody that you respect and that that you can have open communication with and talk to and ask questions, so you know why you're doing something, and it's not just like, just do it and
just do it. Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. Just do it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I don't work like that. I need like
and that's true. You should know why you are doing something. And like if you know, like for me, like I would never have anybody go through the training and nutrition process of prepping for a show ever. Because I wouldn't push that on anybody, because that is not for everybody. And if that's something that people want to explore, then I pass on other coaches contact information. I'm like, talk to them, interview them, and get an idea of what you're in for.
Yeah, of course. The other one, I mean, everybody talks about it, that carbs are bad, but definitely like that was something when I first started in the bodybuilding industry, it was like you can't have carbs, you can't have dairy, like there was some fruit, like all these things were like huge, right? That you were like kind of no-nos back then. And I think now it's coming out more, right? Like those things are okay. It's like when you count your macros, that you have to have balanced things. So I think back then I wish I knew like that those things were super important and not things that I had to stay away from, right? Yeah. Like, because we need calcium. We need them. Like,
we need them. We need the fiber that we get from our fruits and vegetables. We need those complex carbohydrates, not the simple stuff, like the Valentine's cookie that I ate on the way here. But
was it worth it? Was it a good one?
It was totally a good one.
Like the soft ones?
It was it's a sugar cookie. So one of my members is a professional baker.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it was good. Okay. Anyways, I digress.
We won't tell your coaches this.
No. So, you know, those complex carbohydrates, your root vegetables, you know, your fruits, those are the types of carbohydrates you want to be focusing on. So the types of carbs make a huge difference as well.
Yeah.
And just being aware of that.
Yeah, and not being scared. I wish like I knew that back then, right? Because those were things that I always like.
Yep, that's fair.
Yep.
And how carbs were evil, fat was evil. Did you have that? Or not so much?
Not so much. That's good. Fats. No, I didn't really have that.
No, that's good.
No, more like dairy. People were like, "Don't eat dairy" or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, as you get older as a woman, you need to have calcium for sure, right? Like, you don't have to eat a ton of it.
No.
I've now found that I don't have any cottage cheese in my diet, and that's actually helped a lot for me. I don't know why, but I do Greek yogurt, and like Greek yogurt's a big one for me, and I do that. But yeah, I have cut out cottage cheese though, because there's a lot more additives and stuff in it, and like some thickeners and that kind of stuff. So I've actually cut that out.
Yeah.
And I feel like better because of that.
Yeah. But again, that's a trial and error process that you took yourself through.
Yeah. And I like we were talking about the comparison game, right? So things I wish I knew before I started my fitness journey is that you don't have the ability to be her or look like her. Right? Like there's no, like you can't go up on stage and look like another person and have those shoulders or have that body. Like, I mean, you can spend time building that kind of stuff, but when you're comparing yourself in the gym that I'm not doing good or that I don't have this or I don't have that, like that's what I mean. Like, stop comparing yourselves to all of those people because their circumstances in their life are different, or they have more time to train, or they have, like some of the girls that I grew up like bodybuilding with, some of them had a lot of money So when I remember competing with this girl from the States for a couple shows, and they were loaded. They had like 4 houses and whatever. And she was great and I loved her. But it was just not like the ability to have time to train and hire such a good coach and have those beautiful suits. Like I just didn't have that, right? And back then that was like a big comparison thing. She's like, oh my God, like
those suits ain't cheap.
Right. But yeah, like comparing yourself to people in the gym is so hard because you don't know where they are in their fitness journey. You don't know where they've gone through, what they've come out of, that you can't compare yourself to anybody, right? Like how many kids have they had or whatever. You can't compare where people are. So I think the biggest thing I wish I learned, right, is that the way that you look doesn't necessarily deem your whole worth and your whole identity.
No.
Because back then, that was a huge part of my identity. Now I'm like, there's so much more to life than just that. That's a beautiful part of my life, but it's not everything. It's not like...
Yeah, it's just one aspect.
It's just one aspect. You get kind of sucked down that rabbit hole once you start, like, really getting into the fitness industry, right? So
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so totally. And as you said, the social media does not help with that.
Yeah.
You know, and again, depending on who you follow.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people who will do definitely more encouragement posts and, you know, want to get people motivated and inspired to do better for themselves versus those who are literally just showing their highlight reels of their life that day, right? Like, this is my life, everything's great, everything's perfect, look at my body, etc., 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 when who knows what's happening behind closed doors.
And you're like, oh my God, I wish I could be so put together as that, and I'm totally not.
But we don't know what's happening behind closed doors.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening off camera. So, you know, you have to definitely be aware of that.
And we have talked about it a lot, obviously, strength training over cardio. Yes. Like, oh my gosh, I used to do 2 45-minute sessions a day back when I was training, plus an hour of weights, plus I worked all day.
But was that leading up to a show? Or
but I still had friends that, like, even back then, cardio was always the chosen thing if you're going to work out.
No, 100%. I totally, like, even thinking back to university.
Yeah.
Right? It was all, like, the step classes and the high-low classes and... Yeah, and I would do that, and then I would go and lift weights. Oh, it was dumb. Like, it was like 2 hours, plus my gym classes, because I was in kin at York.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I wish, like, I wish I knew back then, right, that cardio wasn't, like, the be-all, end-all.
Cardio is not king. Cardio is not king.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, and also to, like, find those people in your life that are going to support you in your fitness journey. Because, I mean, I feel like I had to fight through a lot of people in my life to succeed in the things that I did in the fitness industry, right? Because, because a lot of people didn't support what I was doing. So that was hard because I feel like now as I'm trying to, like, lean out or whatever, still in my head. I was telling somebody this the other day, still in my head, I have those voices that you shouldn't ever be that lean again because it's not good. Because Yeah,
but you're not getting to show lean. I understand. No. Show lean is not healthy. Yeah. Show lean is literally for one day, and then you got to start working your way back out of that, which is another whole mind.
Yes.
Game.
But there's this whole traumatic thing for me, or like a wall, I guess, sort of, from those voices for so long that were like, you shouldn't.
I was gonna. I don't like. I didn't have people that were not supportive. Yeah. I had people that didn't understand why. Right. And I get it. Like, why put yourself through this? Right. Why train so much? Why reduce your calories? Why restrict? Why?
And I think maybe what we didn't do, and on our part, is maybe what we don't do is explain the real deep, really hardcore deep reasons of why it's so important to us and why we're so passionate about it and how it makes us feel. So on the other side, maybe we needed to take our responsibility, and we didn't explain this to people. We just told them we're doing this and that's it. And communicate better and be like, no, this is like, this makes me feel empowered and this makes me feel good. And I like to push myself. It's like an experiment on myself.
It's a total mental and physical challenge.
Right.
And you do need to be in the right headspace before you start putting yourself through that challenge. Like I'm almost, even though I qualified for the national show this year, I'm almost grateful that I'm not doing it because it happens to fall on the same weekend as my daughter's wedding. So I'm almost a little bit grateful for that because I'm not too sure if I would be ready to go back into that rabbit hole again.
Right.
To be honest. But I know next year, like I'm already prepping my mind for next year. Like, we're only February into this year. I'm already prepping my mind for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
It is like a hard mindset that you have to get yourself to, right? So I think for me is like having, and again, when we're talking about it, maybe it's just more explaining to the people in your life why you choose to do those things so that they can understand more. Because if you have those people that maybe don't support you or sabotage you, then that's hard to kind of keep going through your fitness journey, right?
100%.
So then it's just like, okay, those people don't support me, then I find my people. I find my people that are going to support me through the things that I want to do and through the things that I want to accomplish. And then you have that support on that side, right? Because yes, they love you in other ways, but they just don't understand what you're doing. No. So supporting yourself with that group of friends that like really,
or somebody that you can talk to if you're a significant other, partner, roommate, whatever, all of a sudden comes home with like bags of chips or boxes of cookies, and you know that it's not what you want.
Yeah, right.
It's not what you want for yourself. It's something that you are trying to change. And so having somebody who gets that
having those people, like you change your groups of people, right? Like I stepped into faith and God and all that kind of stuff and religion, and I've had to find my people to surround myself with, because the people that were in my life before obviously weren't, because you're attracted to people that have the same beliefs and values as you. So then I just had to change the people or group in my life so that my environment, so that I could be who I really wanted to be and do the things I really wanted to do. So I think just finding a really good support system in your fitness journey. And if you're married to somebody that isn't really super supportive of your journey, then yes, don't leave them and divorce them because they don't care, because you're changing too. But then you find those people who can support you in that part of your life, right? It's not necessarily like they have to do everything, because what if all of a sudden they just
you're
wanted
dieting,
to be,
so that means no, I'm dieting. Yes.
Or all of a sudden they're like, I'm just going to quit my job because I want to be a pilot or something. Like, you would support them because people do change. People do want to continually grow. So it's just like, just finding that support system in the new things that you sort of want to do. And I know my sister-in-law started cold plunging about a year ago, and now she's up to like 3 or 4 minutes. Wow. But my brother wasn't really like into it at all, and then I just saw a post last week that he went and did it with her, but it took like a year because he watched her grow. He watched her change. He watched all that stuff. So it's not necessarily like it's just going to take a while maybe for the people that really love you to see the change. And last week at church it was about faith and all this kind of stuff, and how mature you get in being peaceful and being calm and stuff, because you really put your faith into God and what your plan is. And that sometimes, like, it was about like, have you ever watched somebody's faith journey, like from the beginning until where they are now? Because if they share that with you, the changes that you see that person go through as they're going through that journey, or same with a fitness, if you watch that person change through their fitness journey to a different person, to a better person, to more confident, to like more patient, then people are going to eventually jump on the train, because they're like, what is she doing and how is she so happy? I want some of that. I want to do that, right? So I think just surrounding yourself with people and being not afraid to change your
and not being angry and resentful at people that may not be supporting you at that very moment.
Yes, because they might eventually jump on the train once they see the changes, right?
Yeah, right. There's quite, as you said, they can just be observing from the outside, still living their life, but that doesn't mean that things might change for them as well after watching you do what you do consistently for months.
Yeah. I think another one is like, throughout chapters of your life, I wish I knew throughout chapters of my life that my fitness level wasn't always going to be 100%, and that was okay. I never gave myself that okay, that during these things that I could just enjoy it. Like pregnancy, I worked out until the day I gave birth. Like
Same.
the day before I was given birth, I was like working out.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think like giving yourself that permission that during certain chapters of your life, it's okay that you're not going to be exactly where you want to be all the time, because you're still better than 80% of the population because you're being consistent with certain habits that you've kept.
Yep.
But other times, there's just going to be times where you're just going to be coasting, and that's okay. Like, coasting is okay. I think in the fitness industry, we're always like, goals, goals, goals. What's our next goal? What's our next goal? What am I going to push myself?
Yeah.
But there is times, and it's okay to just be kind of
coast and maintain.
Coasting and maintaining, and that's okay. You don't always have to be doing these bigger, better things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of wish I knew that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's a lot of... I think that's good.
Wish I knew.
I think that's a lot of... I wish I knew. Yeah, I think that was great. So, anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks everybody for listening today, and we truly appreciate you. And let us know what your biggest takeaway was today, and if you have any questions you want answered on the podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to automatically receive your episodes and to help us reach more listeners. We would love to connect with you on our socials, either Facebook or Instagram, with links in the show notes. Till next time, keep taking those small steps towards your best life.